Spicy! And with that, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good folks out there in the interwebs. Welcome once again to another edition of Nerd Week Live, brought to you here by the folks at Nerd Caliber. Those folks being myself, I'm Rodney Brown, editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, first-person shooter as a cosplay photographer on the Facebooks, Burley_adopter as a tech journalist on the Twitters, and joining us tonight is the wonderfully becapped, if you would introduce yourself.
Hello. People who've been here for a few weeks may see that this has kind of become my go-to streaming look, and that's because most days I am out and about wearing masks, and mask hair tends to be maybe not the cutest hair, so I try to zhuzh it up and do something cute for you guys. Hi, I'm Gogo Incognito. On my shirt it says, "Hello, my name is Sexy." It's a Doctor Who reference. I don't know. I was wore this shirt specifically. I had just found it the other day after it had done that shirt thing. Well, you know what it was? It was just in another time and space. That's what it was. Very excited. You can follow me and my adventures on Instagram at gogo_incognito. And I have some exciting news that I am going to be working on some ongoing video projects with Nerd Caliber, and there's going to be some teaser pics and things that come up on that. So if you're hungry for new cosplay stuff like I am, come check me out. We can do this together. You can be like, "What are you doing?" I'll be like, "Wait and see." It's going to be fun.
Woot woot. Yes. All right, and my bearded brother from another mother, if you would introduce yourself, sir.
Hi everybody out there, Greg, aka Wonder Llama Cosplay and/or Photography, although precious little of either at the moment. A bit of occasional fun stuff here and there, but for the most part it's Wonder Llama sitting in front of the computer in the air conditioning these days. And since Gogo introduced her shirt, I switched off, so I'm going to introduce one of my favorite shirts, the Nar Wars, of course.
It's so good. I had to ask about it. The second he sat down, I was like, "No, wait, we need to see the whole thing. We need to see the whole thing." For sure.
It's awesome.
And I got this. I'm proud to say that buying this supported sea otters. We got this at the Seattle Aquarium a couple of years ago. And I geek out over sea otters for some reason because they're awesome.
Because they're awesome. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All right, let's get some introductions here. Marley Lynn, welcome to the show. Dyslexicon, welcome back to the show. Grell Sutcliffe, I'm guessing that's not really you, because that would be funny. But welcome to the show. Sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Welcome to the show. Rick Figueroa, welcome back to the show. Matthew Roper, welcome back to the show. Can you say something? Well, you can type something, and that's like saying it in the chat. And if it's pertinent to what we're talking about, you absolutely can. Rainbow Unicorn, Nicole, welcome back to the show. And then who else do we have here? Also somebody I can't pronounce, except this time it's Cyrillic, it's Russian. Welcome to the show. Idro, welcome to the show. And I think that's it. If we have anybody who wants to jump over, because it's easier for them, from YouTube to Facebook, we're live on Facebook right now, and also on Twitch. Those are all /Nerd Caliber. So we are going to jump in. We got a bunch of topics. A lot of stuff happened this past week, and not all of them wonderful. In fact, many of them not at all wonderful, and we're going to start off with one of those. The real person you see there is Joanna Cole, who was the author that wrote the children's books of the Magic School Bus series. And, of course, that's Miss Frizzle from the cartoon, the PBS cartoon of Magic School Bus. She passed away actually last Sunday, not this most recent Sunday, but the one before. News didn't come out until last Wednesday. At the age of 75, from as far as I can tell, a late age developed lung condition. So for all of us who were just, huge fans of Ms. Frizzle and Magic School Bus, and this is sad news.
It is sad, so let's remember her with all the weirdness and the wackiness and the good stories and the teaching moments. And sometimes, there were those stories that you're like, wait, what?
Did they really do that in a kid's cartoon?
Right. And I think I actually watched a lot of those when they popped back on. The way they brought back the I'm Just a Bill sitting on Capitol Hill, like those things.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock. Thank you. I had kind of seen Schoolhouse Rock same time I was watching Miss Frizzle, and I was much older than the target demographic, but I was like, this is so brilliant, so good.
Good is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch a ton of it, but like so many things, it became sort of part of 90s pop culture DNA.
Yes.
And Robot Chicken has gone to their well a bunch of times. They've factored in a lot of other things. I was talking to Rodney before we jumped on. I did a charity photo shoot in Manhattan a couple of years ago, and one of the cosplayers was Miss Frizzle as Agent Scully. So we did this whole fun, like Jedis and Blade and Black Panther being murdered, and it turned out that Poison Ivy was the murderer, and Miss Frizzle brought her to justice. So I know no
redheads.
Yep, know a few cosplayers who've done Miss Frizzle. She's a popular cosplay character.
Yep.
And I have looked at Miss Frizzle act that had 4 costume changes from that was absolutely fantastic, from a cosplayer and burlesque superstar who was a full-time costume maker in her day. But how she did it was one of those things where you keep seeing these outfit transformations and you're like,
what?
It was so good, so good. So yes, rest in power and all that good stuff, Joanna.
Marley, I think that means you're leaving. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for joining us. Come back soon.
Come back soon. Or in a week. Or soon, like in a couple of minutes if you want. That's fine too. So very sad news. Sad to hear that she's passed. But thank you for Joanna Cole for supplying us with that character and these stories, because they were way, way fun. Princess Zari, welcome to the show. There's way too many diacritical marks in that, so I'm going to just assume it's like English, and it's Princess Zari. So moving on to our next topic, there isn't really much else to say there except sadness. You know what? That's what I forgot to do, is I forgot to take out the extra topics from our list here, so I'm going to have to make sure I skip over them. So we're skipping over right to that gentleman right there. That handsome goth god is, of course, Morpheus from Sandman, the Neil Gaiman comic. And the big news is that an audiobook of the Sandman book dropped this last week, and the voice cast is fantastic. I can't imagine getting a better Morpheus than James McAvoy. I mean, that's just cool.
This is on my list, and so, I mean, I'm so excited. I have like one other in my queue before I get to this one, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I mean, in terms of the Audible book, but I think they showed that there was a wonderful. I mean, American Gods I don't know. Are they still doing it? But that was
eventually.
Yeah, that's one of those. Okay. They'll someday come back.
But American Gods showed it to be an absolute force. I can really see that also becoming a cult classic. Good Omens. Like, I just think that it is the time. It really is the time to be bringing more of his works to shows, and I just want to make sure that there's the money backing, like whether it's Amazon or Netflix or HBO, like put the money into it, do it right.
Yeah. Now, what Gogo is referencing there is that this is an interview he did, and he talks about the fact that there is an upcoming Sandman show coming to Netflix. Which is, of course, where they did Good Omens, and Gaiman obviously has a strong reputation there.
Good Omens was on Amazon.
Oh, that's right. You're right. My bad. You're right. It was on Amazon.
No problem.
I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, American Gods, fantastic, seminal in its own right. Good Omens, wonderful story. Two of my favorite authors in Gaiman and Terry. But Sandman is beyond iconic. It's a graphic novel. It completely changed the landscape for what a graphic novel could be in terms of the artwork, the storytelling, the characters, the relationships. I've read the first 15 or so issues, 20 issues multiple times. It holds up. As anybody who's been on before knows, I'm a big fan of audiobooks. Gogo, I'm the same boat as you. I bought it the day it came out, or the day after. It's in my queue. I'm about halfway through an audiobook right now, and literally as soon as I'm done with that, this is queuing up, and I may have to just lock myself in my loft and pretend nothing else exists while I listen to the whole thing.
I've been doing a lot of cleaning and purging and whatnot and going through stuff because, again, there's time and whatnot. So I've been burning through podcasts and I'm like, okay, I need something even more engaging. And so I started doing audiobooks, which was never really my thing because I like reading. But if you get that great narrator, it's going to be fantastic. And I have one little, since we're talking about Neil Gaiman, one little aside that specifically talking about Sandman. Years ago when I was living and working in New York City, I worked downtown in Soho in this really great building that was just absolutely stunning. And one of the floors, I think it was the floor either one or two below us, was Neil Gaiman's studio.
Oh, wow.
And so used to get to see all the people that were working on his stuff. We'd occasionally see him. But anytime he'd do art exhibits, whether it was because he also did a lot of the Final Fantasy stuff, right? So there would be art exhibits and whatnot, and he would have them in the most incredible places, and we'd always get invites. And that was just
amazing.
So magical. But I remember when there was either the release or a re-release of The Sandman, there was a whole art exhibition that went with it in an old little synagogue on the Lower East Side that had been turned into the most elite art studio.
Wow.
Yeah. That's wicked cool.
Anyway, bragging moment.
I'm going to have one minor aside as well. Does anybody notice that pretty much no matter what the artist, everybody who draws Morpheus makes him look like goth Neil Gaiman?
You're not wrong.
I didn't notice that until I did the Google image search to come up with an appropriate image, and they had every artist that's ever worked on Sandman, and wow, they're all different, but they all look like Neil Gaiman. I'm like, okay,
fair enough.
All right.
So Gogo, I was thinking about you with this one.
Yeah.
So if anybody has seen, Gogo has cosplayed Aziraphale from Good Omens. Fantastic Aziraphale cosplay. I got a chuckle out of it when I said, oh, isn't that an interesting bit of juxtaposition that Michael Sheen went from playing Aziraphale the Angel to voicing Lucifer in Sandman.
In the audiobook, yeah.
Yes, it's going to be very, I don't know yet. They just said that this show is in development, but it would be really nice if we would see some continuation of this. I would love this. That's one thing. I don't even really watch a lot of, what is his name, Ryan Murphy. I don't watch the American Horror, but I like how you get to see a lot of the same actors in different ones, from Coven to this to that. I would love the next Neil Gaiman production to include Michael Sheen and Neil Tennant and John Hamm. Please and thank you.
Very well, mate.
That would be excellent. Just a second. Just a second.
Sorry.
So Princess, I'm going to call you Princess because in English the two different spellings of your actual name are pronounced exactly the same way because our language sucks. And thank you for yes, we're nerds. My sis called you guys needs. I called her stupid and she corrected herself to I meant nerds. We're needs too. I mean, come on, let's some of us are anyway.
I'm a needy bitch, but
exactly.
That's personal.
And Princess, what the show is, it's a roundtable discussion about nerd news that happened in the past week since last Tuesday, and our shows are Tuesday night. And so the three of us, or whoever's on, we talk about these things that you may not have heard about, and also give you some information both from our pasts and from stuff we've done research on about some of the shows. And Dyslexicon, much love to the late, great Terry Pratchett. Here.
Yes, always.
Yes. All right, so moving on, our next topic is, unless, Greg, I cut you off desperately. So
No, all I was going to say is as a real brief last-minute thing. For any fans of audiobooks, Neil Gaiman narrates quite a few of his own works, and he's so good at reading his stuff. Obviously, he has, an inside track, as it were, and an insight into the characters. But his voice is so good, and his narration is so good. If you want something that's easily digestible and fun and funny as hell, Norse mythology. It's a series of short to, slightly longer short stories about Loki, Odin, Thor, etc., etc. Several of them are like wet yourself funny.
That'll be great when I'm in the car, Greg, and I'm like, hee hee hee. Oh no, tinkles! Like,
maybe not literally wet yourself funny. Speaking of fun and very funny, today we got the news that season 3 of Agretsuko is coming to Netflix real soon, end of August 27th. So if you're fans of the death metal loving poor office worker Retsuko, you got about a month to go, a little more than a month to go, to catch up on those adventures.
I am so excited. I have watched the first season probably 20 times. It's short, so it's like little bits and bobs, but it works great like when I'm working out, if I'm on the treadmill or if I'm on like the recumbent bike or something, because it kind of gets you through and you're like, all right, and then on to the next. And season 2, I felt iffy about. I went back and I watched certain episodes, but like, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't watched season 2, but it's a little different. It's a little different, and it tackles different things in Retsuko's life, and your mileage may vary. I am still very much a fan of the show. I still very much like to cosplay her. I had a whole cosplay plan for her for New York Comic Con 2 years ago, and a series of misfortunate events. Unfortunate events. Yeah, it didn't happen, but maybe it will again. I just think she's rad.
Dyslexicon, I love it. Fenico, 100%.
Yeah, Dyslexicon, you would actually be my Fenico, so there you go.
There you go.
There you go. It's a win.
That's true enough.
I gotta say, I never made it through the first season. And
dig it.
Well, so I thought it was very funny at parts, but the so disturbingly realistic office politics made me just rage.
It did that to my other best friend who may be listening tonight but isn't typing on right now. I was like, come meet this character. I'm so in love with her. And we watched the first episode and she was like, this is my life. Like, this is horrible. Like, how do you watch this? And I'm like, because it's not mine. She's like, yeah, I don't want to watch it ever again. I'm like, okay.
Fair.
Totally fair.
As somebody who's worked in an office most of my career, most of my adult life, yeah, parts of it are. I mean, I readily admit I'm a cis white male, so a lot of the downtrodden female worker in a Japanese office does not apply to me, but I can still absolutely relate to exactly what you're talking about. For the same reason, like I can't watch The Office. I'm sorry. Michael Scott.
liked The Office.
Michael Scott would have been brought up on charges by the halfway through the first season.
Same here. Never. I mean, there are individual episodes I can watch and laugh my butt off. Oh, by the way, speaking of, I'm guessing your friend Tessa. Welcome to the chat.
Tessa.
And I agree with you 100%. It was infuriating.
No.
It was infuriating.
No way.
Absolutely. And Greg, yeah, The Office, same for me. I'd watch some episodes that were just hilariously funny, and then some episodes that were so cringe-inducing. I'm like, nope, not going to happen.
Well, I'm a fan. I definitely went through my binge phase of this to the point where I think Christmas 2 years ago was the giant, like 14-inch tall Retzko, aggro Retzko Funko Pop, and I think I got a couple of T-shirts for Christmas. It's Go-Go. It's exactly what you said. It's the first season more so than the second. It's funny. You can relate to it. It's a fun thing to throw on in the background once you've seen it. And there's just, it's not really giving away any spoilers here, but something about this diminutive red panda, office drone, downtrodden young woman who gets her frustrations out by doing the most aggro death metal karaoke of all time. Shitty Boss is one of the greatest death metal songs ever.
It is there. It's up with some Death Clock stuff that I remember. So, like in terms of
that's
if we're
that's a
talking
great
about
comparison.
fictional stuff, like
Yes.
man, Death Clock used to be my everything. Aww, man, they would actually those Retzko and Death Clock, they'd get together. They would jam.
Them together for a
Do
thing.
we have a crossover?
That's an animated crossover we need to see.
Good. Oh my god.
Um,
I guarantee you, if somebody could make that happen, Brendan Smalls would be on board with that in a heartbeat.
Oh no, yeah, no doubt. For sure. Okay, we got way off on that one.
That's okay. So August 22nd, August 27th, folks, on Netflix, of course, is when season 3 drops. All right, moving on to our next topic, so we had a bit of a discussion about whether or not this was nerdy enough, but given all the people involved, I agree with Greg. This is right up there. So that, of course, is the two, handsomest people in showbiz or whatever the hell you call it. That's Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. And the news is the two of them are going to star in upcoming movie that is being produced by the Russo brothers production company, AGBO, but it's also being directed by the two of them. It's their first directorial effort since Endgame. Now, it's not a particularly nerdy thing. It's a spy thriller based on a spy thriller book. It's a book called The Gray Man. Gosling is his assassin. Evans is the guy hunting him.
I agree with you, Rodney, though. I feel like all the parts involved kind of, bring it over into that. I think, it's going to be hard to also separate Russo brothers and Chris Evans even from, that Captain America. He's still working on, trying to not be that.
Well, if you've seen Knives Out, he is so not Captain America.
Yes.
So not Captain America.
Yes. So my hunch is that we're gonna see maybe a bad boy, Chris Evans, and ooh, child, I'm ready for that.
It is easy enough to typecast isn't the right word, but he's been Cap for so long, and Johnny Storm before that, if anybody even remembers that at this point.
Yep.
That. Yeah, it was a weird, I'm not sure what the right word is, disconnect, I guess, seeing him in Knives Out playing so against Steve Rogers, the ultimate good boy, being this Loesch, ne'er-do-well, I'll leave it there because it's a spoilery movie. So.
Loesch?
Yes.
Did you throw Loesch into our discussion?
I did. That is one of my favorite words. I would also go with dissolute.
I think dissolute might slide by people better than Loesch. I'm sorry, Gogo. We were just word nerding.
That's fine. Everyone was listening to me, so it's all good.
Oh, okay.
That's fine, as it should be.
So Dyslexicon says, paraphrasing, why paraphrase? Any good spy franchise is something worth celebrating in nerddom. I agree. And so if anybody out there can make a spy movie, it's these two guys. Winter Soldier saved the MCU from going down too deep into the, this is unbelievable superhero Thor Dark World garbage, because it was an absolute classic throwback to the 1970s, 1960s spy thrillers.
Yeah, it was good. It was well done. It had Winter Soldier. Didn't they have a whole thing in an icy mountain with a train? Right? Wasn't that in Winter Soldier where they had to do something on a train? There was a train involved somewhere.
Captain America, the first Avenger, there was a train.
Okay, then I'm mixing things up, but I'm remembering that train scene. I don't know. To me, I always think like spy stuff, heists, train. That's my bad. That's my bad.
Dyslexicon, I want more of Chris Evans being a Bostonian snark. I agree with that. After living in Massachusetts for a while, I enjoyed that particular regional attitude. I kind of am disappointed that they didn't play that up more in Knives Out, because it's set in Boston suburbs, and it's, you know, there wasn't enough of that Bostonian attitude in that movie, and I understand that. I mean, they didn't want to, I think, pin too regional a sense of the movie onto something that can be enjoyed by people everywhere.
It wasn't a Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yeah, that is true. That it wasn't Ted 3.
And I mean, realistically, with Daniel Craig's broad attempt at
You mean Foghorn Leghorn?
Foghorn Leghorn, he had the regional accent crown for the entire movie, so there was really no oxygen left.
I know, that scenery chewing.
He was having fun.
Oh, he was. There was even a whole, when he had hosted SNL in conjunction with this, they did a whole skit about him with a dialogue coach and just making fun of how over the top it was. And
I remember that.
Yeah, the stuff that I remember reading that he had said at some point in time, it was just a little sort of snippet takeaway, was that when he was working on this, that the dialogue coach was like, and the directors and whatnot, they were like, all right, I want you to take it. You think you're going to take it to here? You're going to take it to here. And then when you get there, hop over the fence, like, put a little, like, worm on a line, start fishing for trout, or start, like, trying to catch you a fat bass, and just keep on going. Keep on reeling it in until you get there.
Speaking of reeling it in, we're gonna reel it back to...
I'll throw out this super fast last minute thing. While we were talking, I just jumped on Amazon and got the first Gray Man book for my Kindle, I don't actually own a Kindle, but for my ebook reader. So I will endeavor to do a book report in brief at some point soon.
Cool. Awesome. So as Dyslexicon pointed out, apparently you've read the article. This is intended to be a franchise at a James Bond level of scale and budget. Movies going upwards of $200 million per flick to make these. And we also don't know when this first one is coming out. But it's being produced by Netflix. So these will be Netflix movies with $200 million budgets. Kind of, and they're in this article on Deadline, they're kind of drawing the analogy to the Chris Hemsworth movie, Extraction, which wasn't quite as big a budget, but was a huge hit.
Yep. So I didn't notice anywhere. Was this? I mean, obviously, if it's coming out soon, it was greenlit ages ago. It was in production, post-productions, all wrapped up long before COVID stuff. Was this intended to be one of those Netflix release it in the theater, make some money, and then release it in streaming pretty shortly after?
No, this hasn't started yet.
No, I understand that, but like a year ago, when the development deals were all being done, I'd be curious to see if Netflix was planning to do either a slightly staggered or a concurrent release in the theater, because $200 million for a streaming only thing, where your only revenue is coming from subscriber dues, subscriber fees, that's a huge investment. I mean, maybe Gosling and Evans are big enough names, and Russo's are big enough names to bring in new subscribers, but I don't know. I'd just be curious if this was going to be originally, because Netflix has done some theatrical releases. I mean, I think we talked about a little while ago that this year the Oscars are going to let streaming only movies be in contention for the big awards in the same categories, the same breadth as theatrical releases.
Well, in that same article, it did say also that during the whole quarantine lockdown, I guess we could say since March, since it was the stay-home orders and all that, since COVID took over our whole lives, Netflix has seen an increase in over 10 million subscribers.
Right.
So I think they must feel comfortable in having the audience.
And it could be that they are planning on at some point, doing a early theatrical release. But realistically, even for Netflix, that's only been to be able to get contention for any of the awards. And we don't know what their deals are with any post-Netflix deals into HBO or into any of the other, streaming services. So they may be looking at that as a revenue source as well. But that's more than what we have in our brains to be able to talk smartly about. So we'll go on to something else that's connected sort of to the Russo brothers. That's the news that this is no surprise, there shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is not, in fact, going to be premiering this August on Disney+. It's been put off. No schedule announcement as to when it's coming back. Because in fact it wasn't really announced that it was off. Disney Plus put out its lineup for August and it wasn't there. So then later on they confirmed, and this is an Entertainment Weekly article, that it has been delayed due to the pandemic. A new premiere will be announced soon, as they say. So
this is like a big, they're doing it as like a big blockbuster, right?
Well, yeah, yes. I mean,
it should be. It would have been. Let's just say everything was normal. Would it have been a summer blockbuster?
Well, it's a series, not a movie. So, but it's given.
Never mind. I forgot. That's right. I forgot that.
But it is given that kind of level of budget. Although Anthony Mackie did say at one point in a recent interview after the new set of filming was done in Prague, that it's different than filming movies, and you can tell. And I can't remember the exact quote, but it was definitely budget related.
Okay, yeah, I forgot. Speaking of, did the Loki show ever come out?
Nope, nothing has premiered yet on Disney Plus. The first one was supposed to be Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right, I know. Come on, give us the stuff. We can only rewatch Mandalorian and the Clone Wars animated those so many times.
I'm hoping they get on it really fast. As I recall, Loki is one of the later ones. I think the release is supposed to go Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, What If, I think, the What If series, and then Loki. But
boo hiss.
Exactly. Boo hiss. But anyway, so that's it. We don't know when, folks. Stay tuned to get your Falcon, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They really should change the name to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but I understand why, because of confusion. But at this point, in the continuity of even the MCU, he's Captain America.
He's Captain America now. He got the shield. He's Captain America.
Exactly. Speaking of delays, I don't know if you guys have been following this. This is Christopher Nolan's latest movie, Tenet. And it's been ready. It's had an August premiere date, which was kicked back from its July premiere date, which was kicked back from its June premiere date. And that's what Nolan has essentially been doing with this movie. He's been trying desperately to kick it down the road for Warner Brothers since it was ready to go. And now they've finally thrown in the towel. It has... they've taken it off their release schedule completely. It is currently there is no release date whatsoever, although like Disney Plus with Falcon and Winter Soldier, they say a new date will be announced imminently, not soon, but imminently. But, and this is the big news, the picture's theatrical global rollout won't be quote unquote traditional. And they're apparently releasing this movie are going to release this movie initially in those countries where they can make a lot of money that have theaters that are open, i.e. China.
Japan.
Well, South Korea and a lot of Europe and so on, but not the U.S. And that's going to, I think, be a big watershed moment in movie openings and releases. I don't think that it's going to be easy for people to argue that you've got to release it in the United States anymore, or not premiere it in the United States.
For financial purposes, I mean, this makes, if you're trying to, get an incredibly expensive movie released in the theaters where it can make the most amount of money, you do it where there's theaters open. Obviously, we can't do it in the U.S. And Christopher Nolan, I mean, if you've read anything about this, he has absolutely gone to the mats on this must be seen in the movie theater. This must not be watched on your phone. Or at least, maybe the third time you see it, you can watch it on your phone. So, yeah, I mean, Roddy and I were chatting about this before we got started. It's kind of a sad indictment of where the U.S. is in terms of coronavirus at the moment, that China, Japan, South Korea, maybe parts of Europe have moved. I don't want to get too deep into the coronavirus weeds here, but they've moved far enough past that they can open movie theaters, and no sane theater operator in the U.S. is opening a movie theater anytime in the next month or two or three. It's kind of a sad indictment of where we are.
Yep. As Dyslexicon calls it, the germpocalypse is really messing up our movie releases. That is true. So, and I can see Nolan's trying so desperately to stick to his guns. Can you imagine watching Inception with the noise on your phone? Not the same thing.
Okay, I recently watched Inception on my phone because my iPad doesn't want to do. It's an old. I still have that iPad Mini because it's the perfect size, but it stopped doing anything other than letting me play the most simple games. It was fine. I don't know what bar noise you mean, but
that's because it's so low in the register, you don't get it on a phone.
Okay,
the phone can't reproduce it. So did you watch it? Go. Did you see that in the theater or on a big home theater system at any point?
We saw it in the theater. We saw it in our home theater system later, with enough time to kind of sort of forget little things, to be wow all over again. And then I hadn't seen it. I just got a hankering to watch it when it was crazy rain and 94 degrees, but I wanted to get my steps in, so I was on the treadmill. It's what's going to keep me entertained. So, yeah, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't anything kapow, but,
I just meant, it doesn't scale down super well. That's a movie that it's so visual and so visceral between the on-screen stuff, what Rodney was, referring to with the boom, boom, boom. So much of the score and the soundtrack is these ultra-low register digital sounds and low woodwind instruments. And it's it gets you in the same register that the bass does in hip hop, and you see it in the theater. It's this impactful, visceral thing, and then you got it on your little tiny phone with your little half-inch speaker. Anyway, so
yeah, and then it's look, it's a bunch of people in a van falling into a river.
Again, not to go off on a sidetrack here too much, but Avatar, for me, was exactly the same thing. Watching that in the theater was holy, whoa, this is unbelievable. I saw it in IMAX, probably 3D when it came out. It was unbelievably awesome. And then I watched it in my home theater. Nice TV, good sound system, subwoofer, the whole thing. And I'm
this cartoon
really
is nice.
Very well. Anyway. There you go. Basso profundo. That's it exactly, Dyslexicon.
Yep.
I do like it when I can hear my downstairs neighbor's light fixtures rattling.
Yeah, well, it happily got me through about an hour of walking before I was okay, whatever. Kept me engaged. But yeah. Sorry. Anyway, we are rambling.
We are. So we're going to move along.
Rodney later. He's going to be like, you kids.
Going to move along to our next topic, and this is yet another. This is a streaming product. Let's put it that way, because we weren't talking about this one last time. Anyway, another movie. It's called Project Power. Just dropped a trailer. This is also coming to Netflix, and it looks really amazing. It is a sort of superhero-y sci-fi. Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Part of the reason why I want to watch Inception again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good in Inception. And it's basically a story of somebody develops pills that give people very temporary superpowers. And Jamie Foxx plays somebody who, as far as I can tell from the trailer, somebody with these superpowers did something wrong to his family, and he's trying to figure out a way to get some payback. But the powers look really amazingly well done. Jamie Foxx, looks like he's, in another the other Scott brother movie. What was it? The Kingdom is the one he did, right? Set in Saudi Arabia, FBI agent.
There you go.
Looks just like that, except that's not who he plays, and it's not made by them. But it looks really good. It was really amazing. It is dropping really soon, and I looked all through this, so at August 14th. Check out the trailer. Dominique Fishback, Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a local cop, and Fishback is apparently a teenage drug dealer. And they all get caught up in this whole superpowered pill thing.
I can't quite decide on this. I watched the trailer, and it's like one part interesting red pill, blue pill thought experiment, one part kind of cliched looking cop movie. I don't really know which one is sort of the main aspect of it, and so it'll be interesting to watch it.
Yeah, there's at times it looks kind of like a much less violent Boys meets Training Day, and you kind of go, I'm not sure if those two things mix.
Training Day was like emotionally gripping.
Oh, yeah, well, true, and hopefully this will be something like that. But even if it's not, Fox is clearly putting in a fantastic performance, as is Levitt. So, I'm on board. And it's got people who turn into flames. So,
you got somewhere better to be.
Exactly, and have you got somewhere better to be? That is the most accurate and saddest thing I've heard in a while. So moving on, we have the Invincible series. Just dropped a couple of more cast members to the voice cast, and my God, is this exciting? So this is
it looks really. It's stacked.
It's stacked. So this is an Amazon Prime animated series based on the comic books written by Robert Kirkman before he was super famous for The Walking Dead. So you've got, in addition to the already announced cast members, we've got Steven Yeun from Walking Dead playing Mark Grayson, Invincible, the hero who is in the middle of this image that's on your screen. And then you've got J.K. Simmons playing his dad, Omni-Man. They've now added Zachary Quinto as Robot and Carrie Payton as Black Samson.
Another person who can chew some scenery.
Oh, yeah. And Carrie Payton. He's done so much wonderful voice work well before we discovered, or I discovered him anyway, in The Walking Dead. He was really solid in doing voice work in games and animated movies and cartoons, and now he's right back into it. But Gillian Jacobs as Adam Eve, Seth Rogen as Alan the Alien. This cast is fantastic. Gray Griffin, one of the voice acting talents that's done everything in two roles, Shrinking Ray and the human version of Monster Girl. Mark Hamill as Art, Zazie Beetz.
Speaking of people who choose scenery, you've got Mark Hamill,
Yeah.
who, when he does animation stuff, just swallows scenery whole. And Jason Mantzoukas.
Yep.
Who's fantastic in animated stuff.
Yep.
I'm not familiar with him. Or maybe I am. I can't.
Did you watch Big Mouth, right?
No.
Oh, I thought we had talked about that. You watched Big Mouth. Did you watch Parks and Rec?
Oh, yes.
Jason what the hell was his name? The Perfume King.
Oh my gosh, who's also in
Dennis
The Good
Feynman.
Place?
Dennis Feynman.
Dennis Feynman, but he's also in The Good Place.
I
Yes,
have not watched that, so I'll take your word for it.
Love this actor. Okay. Okay, did not.
And
okay,
and
actually, big fan.
For me, Walton Goggins as Cecil Stedman. Walton Goggins is one of my absolute favorite actors. Having said that, I haven't watched his current sitcom-y thing that he's been doing for the last few years. But almost anything else he's in, I'm on board 100%. So this is what we've got coming out. It gives no announcement about when this is actually going to drop. I tried looking it up on IMDb, and there's no information. I mean, there's less information on IMDb than there is in this Bleeding Cool article. So, so we don't know when it's going to happen. Fingers crossed this year, but I wouldn't be sure about that. It's been in development for a while. And I'm trying to think without giving anything away. So the story is Mark Grayson is a teenager. His dad, it turns out, is the most powerful superhero on the planet Earth. And as Mark's powers start to develop, he becomes a superhero as well. This character, Invincible, which is actually why there's sort of an eye there in his shirt or his uniform. But he also discovers that his dad is in fact not really human. And that becomes the driving force for pretty much the entire plot. Multiple plots. So it's really amazing. It's also, and I'm not sure exactly how this is going to play out, one of the most graphically gory, violent comic books out there. If you've seen Old Guard, have any of you seen Old Guard yet?
Not yet. It's probably this weekend.
So I'm not giving anything away. If you know what the basic plot of it is, some of the main characters get pretty messed up in a gory way, and Omni-Man is sort of like that. It's like, gosh, that's awful. Well, you can get better. Omni-Man does, but because of that, they don't shy from showing just how horrible it would be if somebody actually got punched by somebody as strong as Superman. So it's pretty graphic. I can't imagine they're going to go that far down that path. But speaking of something way less graphic, also comic book related, and way more, I hope, fun. That is one of the covers to an issue of Usagi Yojimbo.
Oh, that's right. We were going to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stan Sakai's comic book that ran forever, one of the longest running independently published comic books, is being turned into a Netflix animated series that is changing the title around a little bit for the English audiences, Samurai Rabbit: The Usagi Chronicles. And coming to Netflix, it's going to be CG, which I'm a little not that thrilled about, because the people apparently doing it's 88 Productions, did what was the Third Below? What was the name of that series? They did a bunch of animated series recently. Troll Hunters, The Tales of Arcadia, that's what it is. And Three Below, yeah. Tales of Arcadia. And some VeggieTales stuff. And I mean, as long as Stan Sakai is involved and they've got good writers and so on, and they're adapting his stories, which are hilariously funny and very exciting, and I'm excited for it, but man, I'm really worried about that CGI.
This was one of like the things. I'm sorry.
I'm not familiar with the series.
I read it, like, it said it's, I'm just looking up the article again, and, it says, it started in, like, 1984. Like, I remember reading it, like, definitely by, I don't know, 1987, 1990, and just it being one of those, like, little gateway things into more, anime and manga and whatnot. And just being like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, I want to know more. I want to see more. And just, I remember there was a kid who had, like, a backpack or a lunchbox or, like, something like that. And it's like, well, what's that about? What's this cool, like, ninja rabbit? It's like, well, it's not a ninja. It's a samurai. Oh, okay. Tell me more.
That's cool. So I first, probably in 84 or 85, there was a comic book store in Portland on Exchange Street. And I went in there and I was just sort of thumbing through the indie section, and I immediately grabbed the first issue of Frank Miller's Ronin, which is an amazing comic book. And then it's like, what is this cartoon samurai rabbit? And I was like, all right, I'll get this for just, giggles. And it was really funny. It was really well done as a very cartoony, as you can tell from from the image that just came up there. As you also can tell, it's basically anthropomorphic, animals. So this is essentially Beastars or Zootopia, except it is set in samurai feudal Japan. It's a great series of stories.
It really was. I don't think I remember the imagery, but I don't think I remember the stories because I read it as a kid, but definitely. But I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see these stories get made for the next generation. But yeah, do them right. Also, if they are cartoony, keep them cartoony.
I agree.
Not everything has to look like Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going to go that way. If you look at any of the animation from the Tales of Arcadia stuff, it's more like that recent Pixar fantasy movie, outbound, something.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that was fun.
It is, except this studio isn't Pixar. So.
Right. Okay. And when I say fun, I mean I haven't seen that movie yet, but it looked like the characters looked like a fun design. Like you can get behind it. Like, oh, it's fantasy, but it's not taking itself too seriously.
Yeah. Speaking of fun.
Fun.
That is fun. That was fun. That's a childhood hit right there. Universal and Mattel are developing a Wishbone movie based on the PBS series with the talking dog that recreates classic literature stories. This is Frankenstein, with Wishbone as the good doctor. I loved this series. It came out when it obviously was way, I was way too old for this when it came out. I didn't care. In addition to superhero comics, I grew up on the old, Classics Illustrated, and I loved those as well. And this was just like that. I mean, this was Classics Illustrated, except with a dog and on TV. So I'm cautiously very optimistic. Except
that's a good way to put it.
That one of the Farrelly brothers is producing it.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's like when I saw that, it's like what Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers? Okay. So, I can't imagine he's going to be producing anything. This isn't going to be Ted. Which, God, I hope not. But was anybody else a Wishbone fan? Yes, no?
I don't
Absolutely.
remember. I'm like, I feel like I've seen pictures, but I don't remember. Again, I remember the Magic School Bus and Schoolhouse Rock and all that good stuff. And there's a lot of things I do remember so fondly, but then other stuff I'm like, I feel like I should know what this is, but I can't remember ever watching it once.
Dyslexicon, Onward is the name of the movie. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Much appreciate.
I was a huge fan of Wishbone also, mostly because I'm a book guy, and they tackled a lot of real classic literature, classic books. If I thought of it, I would have pulled up some of the episodes they've done. But yeah, I mean, big, well-known titles like Frankenstein, etc. And it was charmingly low budget. It was like, if it had never come out, it's the kind of thing that like really creative cosplayers and video people could put together with a fairly low budget on a soundstage now and have it be a cool series. But it was done in the 90s. It was PBS. They had a decent sized budget, I presume. The dog who played Wishbone was fantastic.
Yep. Probably dogs. I can't imagine
Jack
it's just
Russell,
one.
Right?
Yep. Jack Russell Terrier.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm gonna guess that a lot of people got Jack Russell Terriers in the 90s after watching Wishbone without realizing what super high energy, high
Super
volume,
smart, yes.
super smart dogs Jack Russells are, and may have regretted not going with a pug instead.
Now, one of the things I forgot to mention, this is going to be live action, just like the Wishbone series was. It's not going to be, I'm assuming they may do some CG with Wishbone, but I'm guessing they're training dogs. That's why Farrelly was also the producer and I think director of Green Book, the white savior movie that everybody loved, with Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. And apparently Mattel Films has in development American Girl, Barbie, Barney, the dinosaur, Hot Wheels, Magic 8 Ball, Masters of the Universe, Viewmaster. Trying to think how you make a movie out of that. And this is straight out of my childhood. Major Matt Mason. I had more Major Matt Mason toys when I was a kid than you can imagine. So that one I'm excited about. The rest of them I'm really like, Viewmaster?
You're not looking forward to a live action Viewmaster movie, really?
Dude, I'm sorry. You're like, how would you do that? And my brain immediately goes, like, I know exactly how I'd do it. But, like,
Okay.
I'm not getting into that because I might have a really good plot. Like, if this may be a screenplay you go see, like you say, how do you make a movie about Viewmaster?
You call go-go.
Exactly. There you
I
go.
got this. I mean, I'm going to have to talk to my agent, run it by
Write it up,
people,
get it
but-
copywritten, and then pitch it to Mattel.
Right?
I'll throw this out to you guys because I'm certain you've both seen the movie that I'm thinking of, but it's not a plot, it's just the visual. But when you saw Up in the theater the first time and they got to Paradise Falls and they did that very Viewmastery depth of field effect where they come up over the top of the cliffs and you see the waterfalls and the rock formations and everything, I immediately went, oh my god, this is a Viewmaster. It's exactly what that scene looked like.
That's a good point. Luminous, welcome to the show. Yes, you are very late, but that's okay. Better late than never.
Hi,
And
Luminous. Welcome back.
Dyslexicon, how do you make a movie about the Magic 8 Ball?
I got ideas for that too. Seriously.
All right, you two work it out.
This is really telling about this exact moment in time and space. Luminous made the comment, I watched the original Zoom on PBS. I don't think there's been a Zoom movie. And I'm thinking, how would you make a movie about a video conferencing service? Zoom.
Zoom.
Never mind.
Anyway, so this is in production. Don't know when we'll see it. We will see it at some point. And let's hope Peter Farrelly doesn't, make it awful. We're running late, so we're going to zip into our next to the last topic, and so we can get to the last topic. That right there is a screen grab from an upcoming game called Gamer Girl from Wales. Whales Studios, Whales Development, Whales something. And the idea is that you play as the chat moderator for a streamer on it's not Twitch program, and that ultimately can lead into, well, if you fail, lead into you getting fired, or lead into a thriller where you then become the girl in question's primary contact in trying to help deal with what is essentially a stalker of a celebrity. And the idea, when the trailer dropped, it dropped with almost no description about what the game was about or the intent behind the game. And it just got ripped apart on social media. Twitter just blew up on this. How, who in their right mind was thinking about making a game in which, a probably male player gets to control the actions that determine, potentially the life of a female gamer girl. And on the surface, that sounds horrible. The company has put out a statement saying the idea behind the game is to get you to realize how horrible life is for women on social media, particularly, chat platforms like Twitch. And I don't think, based on what I've seen, that has brought the knives down at all. People are still saying, well, this is a horrible way to do it. And without seeing any gameplay, I'm not really sure I could say one way or the other. I mean, it certainly is creepy. But if you're playing the person that ultimately is trying to help her survive, it's maybe not as bad as people have been, ripping it apart on the interwebs. Hard to say.
I don't know. I'm going to hold off on commenting completely until I have more information. I used to stream regularly. I used to stream for, as a paid streamer for a company, and I quit after a while because of the abuse. And there were mods, but they cared more about the people that I worked for cared more about, the monetization and whatnot coming in, and the more people in the stream. And so people might get like a kick for like 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and then they just come right back. And it was just like, why am I doing this? Yeah, you are paying me to entertain. You are not paying me enough to be constantly abused, and then have that abuse follow into my other social media accounts. So it was just like, so I love working with Nerd Caliber myself. Like, I did not go the route to try to keep promoting myself as a Twitch streamer and content creator. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. And
a lot of that is because of this stuff.
Dyslexicon says this reminds me of those older FMV games like Night Trap. This is an FMV title. It is Whales Interactive is the company, and they made the Complex, Late Shift, so other FMV titles like that. I guess we really do need to see this game, see gameplay, and see how it plays out to see whether or not this is a creep fest disguised as awareness, or awareness that necessarily has to have the creepiness involved because, the internet's creepy.
Yeah.
So, with no further commentary on that, and we'll wait on that, let's move on to our last topic. And that is Comicsgate rearing its ugly head yet again.
That's right, this, yeah.
Yes, this.
This, yeah.
So the news is Dynamite Entertainment got also raked across the coals on Twitter and other social media as being a company that, despite having said publicly many times that they, don't believe in any of the misogynistic stuff that's being espoused by the people who are behind Comicsgate. And it would take way too long to explain, what Comicsgate is. Basically, The short of it arose like 5 years ago when a bunch of comic book publishers increased diversity in a lot of their titles, and a lot of these people who are behind Comicsgate said, "Oh, this is just being politically correct, and the SJWs are driving you to increase diversity, and you should stop it."
They think it's ruining comics by forced diversity.
Exactly.
That the affirmative action is actually ruining the quality and the content, and that's just not. That goes for hiring more BIPOC writers and artists, and getting into the publishing world and all that stuff. It's not just characters. It's not just the characters we see in the comics and the stories. It's the actual creators as well. And so it's saying like, oh well, you should. Comicsgate people saying we want the best comics possible, which means what? That they just want fucking white people doing it?
Pretty much. And no white boys, no women, white guys.
Exactly. White boys.
White boys. So what happened is Dynamite, who has in the past hired people who are associated with Comicsgate, but has consistently said they don't believe that is in fact a right way to think about comics. Yet again, hired an artist who is goes by the name Cecil. Who this is his project that's currently in an Indiegogo campaign called Cash Grab, a graphic novel that he's working on, and who is a rabid supporter of Comicsgate, of people like Ethan Van Sciver, who's like the worst in the world. So people called them out and said, hey, look, you can't do this. And Dynamite started losing creators. A lot of their people, like in the industry nowadays, most people are freelance anyway, but there were people whose contracts were ending within an issue, and they said, that's it, I won't do another thing for you ever after this issue is done.
Yeah. Some have said, that's it, you've shown your ass, and adios. Thanks for the memories, and I really liked the titles I was working on, but I don't like working for you. And others have said that they're going to stop until there is changes in management and changes in policy.
Yep.
So, if you want to go and follow this, if you're a Twitter person, you can see a lot of stuff in support from creators and from writers. And I think that's really important. A title that I think everybody knows, even if you've never read it, is Red Sonja. And folks working on that, whether it's writers to cover artists or whatnot, are just like peace out.
Yep. And part of the problem is that while Dynamite has been doing all of this, we don't care about Gamersgate, so they're pretending that it isn't something they support. They've been putting out stuff like Gail Simone's run on Red Sonja, in which she turned a chick with a sword and a metal bikini into a deep, interesting female character. And Dynamite has published a lot of other stuff, including you guys may be watching this series on Amazon, and when it drops again, The Boys. Dynamite has published some really innovative and in some cases very supportive content. And then it just turns right around and it's like, oh yeah, this guy who is absolutely notorious for being a supporter of Comicsgate, so he's a misogynist 100%, probably a racist. Yep, we'll give him a cover too. How does the company do that? And apparently now it's come out, or at least it's being put out there a lot, that the owners of Dynamite have vocally come to the support of some of these Comicsgate comic book creators who can't make a comic book now in the mainstream industry. It just nobody will hire them because they're such awful people, and the owners have actually come out in support of these guys. Dynamite's got a lot of work to do.
Dynamite's got a lot of work to do, and that stinks because there have been some really great titles that and some really great work that's been coming out of there, but I believe that the titles will, even if the titles find a new home somewhere else, I don't think we're going to be, it's not like we're seeing the last of Red Sonja or The Boys or things like that. Like, they'll find a home, even if they move.
True. Thanos, welcome to the show. You're pretty much right at the end. Greg.
Yep, we're about to say bye.
Greg, we weighing in here or no?
I'm not super familiar with any of them, and you guys had it all covered, so I'm happy to sit back and learn some stuff.
All right. Cool. All right. We are running just a little bit over. Not too bad, though, considering it's the three of us, and boy, do we like to talk. So... thank you all for joining us tonight. Thanks for the excellent commentary and questions in the chats. We will see you next week. I cannot forget to promote. Next Saturday, if you want to, please tune into this YouTube channel or the Covenators Twitch channel, twitch.tv/thecovenator. And you can watch the July qualifier of the Summer Cosplay Contest Series that we're putting on with the Covenator. Cash prizes for the people that are involved. We have, more than double the entries from the June qualifier. Amazing cosplays, a wonderful variety of styles, of fandoms, and so on for you to check out. Fantastic judges. Spectra, That Gears guy. Dang it. And I took pictures of all of them.
I know.
It's like, I'm the one that took all their pictures. Why can't I remember?
I was just looking at it, and I'm like, I know everybody, and now I can only remember the Spectra.
Yeah. God damn it.
Anyway, fantastic judges.
Sorry, y'all.
So if you, Saturday, the 25th, 6 p.m., check it out. It'll be a lot of fun. Live interaction with the judges. All of the contestants will be on the live stream. So it'll be a cool time. And fingers crossed, apparently there's a little up in the air now about this, but Boston's Deadpool will once again be hosting.
He was really good. I really enjoyed him as a host. I really enjoyed judging. I really enjoyed the whole thing. It's good. It's a really good, different, interesting way to view a cosplay contest, because you really get to learn a lot about the costumes, but also really get to understand and get to know the people who made them. So, you kind of like, I really want to root for that one, because, for whatever reason. And it's just like, again, if you like, I don't know, if you like shows where people are competing for stuff like I do, like I'm obsessed with those shows. Like, this is kind of like that. You're going to get the same, like,
Cake Wars, but with less fondant.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Like, the same, like, you're going to fall in love with these cosplayers. So come check it out for sure.
All right.
No one will be attempting to bake in a tent.
Exactly. Oh, God. Anyway, so thank you all, folks. Tune in next week, next Tuesday. We'd love to see you. Give you a heads up. I'm going to be house sitting, so I'll be doing this from my laptop, and so I'll probably be slow as I move around from chat to chat because I just have the one screen. But we'll see you then. And so if you would, folks, let's start with Gogo. Say goodnight.
Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. I'll have more updates on what I'm doing with Nerd Caliber next week. Bye.
Yes, Mr. Greg.
Can't wait. Night, everybody. It's good seeing y'all. I'm sorry we ran a little bit late, but there was an awful lot of stuff going on. I'm sure there'll be as much or more next week.
Yep, let's hope. More nerd news. Keeps us busy. And good night for me. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.